Wow. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for coming out to our little town hall. My name's Tom Hucker. I represent the Silver Spring on the Montgomery County Council, and I chair the Montgomery County Council's Transportation and Environment Committee. So we're here today because residents from Montgomery County, Prince George's County, even Frederick County are increasingly concerned by about the proposal by the Maryland Department of Transportation to widen the Beltway and 270 through the P3 process. Just 1 week ago, we decided to organize this meeting. 1 week ago. And we did so because the Maryland Board of Public Works was scheduled to vote on Wednesday to let this project go forward, to authorize the MDOT to enter into a P3 agreement and move forward on this project. And as we can see, by how many people turned out in just 1 week, there are profound and widespread concerns by taxpayers about how this project will impact our neighborhoods, how it will compromise our environment, how it will affect our commutes, and how it will impact our state's finances. This proposal has been managed like the runaway bus in the movie Speed. It's our job to slow it down, to get the Board of Public Works to ask the hard questions, and to demand the environmental and fiscal and traffic review that we deserve before our neighborhoods are compromised, the environment is damaged, and taxpayers are left holding the bag for billions of dollars. So I want to explain today's agenda and our goals. First, we put this together to influence the people who have control over this project, not just to get you information. Many of you are already experts on this project, and if you're not, you should go to 495-270-p3.com to get all the information from the state. We have folks who can try to answer your individual questions today, but mostly today is set up to influence the decision makers. Second, you're going to hear more about the federal process for huge transportation projects like this, but what you need to know right now is the county council, unfortunately, and the county executive don't have very much to say about it. We have raised many objections, we've offered alternatives, but we don't get a vote. The state assembly could have required more control, but they adjourned without passing major legislation to hold up this project, despite the heroic efforts from House Chair Kumar Barve, who's here, and Senator Jeff Waldstreicher and Jared Solomon and Laura Charcuti and many other delegates that are here today. So the next step is that the project needs to be approved to solicit proposals from the private concessionaires by the Board of Public Works, which is made up of the Comptroller, Peter Francho, the Treasurer, Nancy Kopp, and the Governor. Our goal is to show 2 of the 3 members of the Board of Public Works that this project is not ready for prime time, and to improve it or stop it. And that's how we stop it, or that's how we fix this. Either outcome is much better than where we're heading right now. And that's why I'm hoping they arrive, but Deputy Comptroller John Gontram is on his way here, and top staff from the Treasurer's office is coming as well. I've spoken directly to Treasurer Kopp and Comptroller Francho. Both of them have personally pledged to me that while they couldn't be here today, they would send staff and they'd watch the video recording of this entire proceeding and weigh our views carefully in their decision making. We already had a big win thanks to all of your grassroots organizing by postponing the vote that was scheduled to happen this week. So give yourselves a hand. But don't be fooled. This is a temporary reprieve, right? We have to keep organizing to win. And as the transportation chair for the Montgomery County Council, I know that to reduce congestion, we have to focus on moving people, not automobiles, and we have to significantly and we have to significantly incorporate transit into this process. We're the experts on congestion in Montgomery County, not folks in Hanover, Maryland at the Department of Transportation. We have been asking for congestion relief for years, and we have not been receiving much help from the state except for the Purple Line. This project would be way better if they had just focused on fixing the American Legion Bridge, adding reversible lanes to 270 so we could better use, more efficiently use the pavement we've already paid for, and dropping the plans to supersize the Beltway by adding 4 lanes east of 270. So it will be a terrible mistake if the Board of Public Works rushes this project forward without a traffic study showing that it will work, without a fiscal analysis, and without an environmental impact statement. And that will be a mistake that our community will be paying for generations. So, everybody understands why we're here? Yeah. Our primary goal for today is to help the Board of Public Works members understand how you feel about this project. And I think they were hoping the General Assembly might have been able to do more, and because they weren't, now they're getting a crash course in this. So whether our staff show up or not, they're going to be watching this whole thing. I need to introduce, I mentioned the comptroller staff and the treasurer staff. I want to introduce our third key decision maker, and that's, where'd she go? Carol Rubin, our senior counsel and senior project manager. Oh, come on up. Am I coming up? Carol's not used to being the only chair up here. And the senior project manager for the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. I need you to understand the county council doesn't have a formal role in the federal transportation process, but our Parks Commission is what's called a cooperating agency, and it has a formal seat at the table because they have to sign off on any transfer of parkland. Carol's the senior project manager. She's been attending many meetings with State Highway, and I'm so pleased she's here to update you and hear your views. Do you mind sitting, because we have to let Jamie go? Thank you. And then you're going to hear from a lot of people, believe me. Sorry to be not clear. And finally, rest assured, this entire event is being live streamed to the public and to the media, and it's being recorded by our outstanding county staff, headed by Susan Kennedy, who's somewhere, and Mike Springer in the Nationals cap over there. Thank you, Mike. So this is the real deal, folks. In contrast to the stage-managed dog and pony shows that many of you attended, held by State Highway Administration, everything you say today will be heard by decision makers who need to hear it. And it will have an impact on this project because it will have an impact on those two key officials and Carol as well. But before we start hearing from all of you, and we're going to get more chairs as soon as the church lets out in 10 minutes. Okay? Before we start hearing from you, we want to catch you all up on what's already happening with elected officials representing different levels of government to share their thoughts on this project. After we hear from key elected officials, we'll open it up to quick statements and questions from all of you till 12:45 or so, beginning with some of the groups that have been so engaged in educating the public about the perils of this project and help put this event together. And then after that, the Sierra Club will lead some breakout groups after the remarks to focus on organizing the next steps, and you can participate in those if you can stay. Finally, one last word about the scheduling of this event. We realize many folks couldn't attend today because this is when a lot of people go to church. We didn't intend to exclude them. This room is in great demand, and this was the only slot that was available, and we reserved it for a different event weeks ago. And then when we found out the board was voting, we said we have to have something on the Beltway. So thank you all for coming. Didn't mean to exclude anybody. We might have another event before the board votes again. And before I call up our, I'll recognize elected officials that are here in just a minute. Let me call up, this is a federal transportation process. And we're so glad that there's somebody very powerful in this room that has our back, and that's our fabulous Congressman Jamie Raskin.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning, Maryland. And can we hear it for the leadership of our great councilman, Tom Hucker, in bringing us together? It's very gratifying and inspiring to be here. You know, Washington is still mostly occupied territory, so it's great to be back in the Free State this morning with the people of the Free State. It's wonderful to be with leadership that I can always trust, I can count on, that is honest, that has integrity. The people I see, Sid Katz, Kumar Barve, Tom Hucker, Laura Charcuti, and Janelle Wilkins, the people in this room who are fighting for us every day, I would say their leadership is unimpeachable, okay? I just wanted to come by to say this. First of all, I want to salute our representatives and all of the people in this room for a big victory in making sure that there was not a vote in the Board of Public Works with one of the main members gone, with Nancy Kopp, the treasurer, out of state. But I want to say more generally, obviously, the traffic that we all experience is a quality of life issue for us. But we are only going to get through the problem, we're going to come up with the right solutions if we have real process and real public participation, okay? We have the smartest transportation engineers, the greatest scientists, the most thoughtful people in the country right here. We don't need to go back to mid-20th century answers to 21st century problems, okay? So I want to make sure before we move forward on anything that we have an environmental impact study, that we have a fiscal analysis, and that we have a thorough and comprehensive transportation analysis of how to make things work around here. I've got to get back to Capitol Hill, but you're giving me great hope and great heart that the people of Maryland are going to come to the right solution on this. And remember, public participation is essential, it's indispensable, it's key, and Mr. Governor, it is unavoidable. The people will be heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Jamie, I haven't seen as many people here since your victory party. Council President Nancy Navarro really wanted to be here. She texted me that she's 100% with us. Her back is acting up today, and she sent in our stead our great ally, Council Vice President Sidney Katz is here.
Well, first off, thank you all very, very much. This is great. Anybody should see it from this angle. With it's so many people here. Please give yourselves a round of applause, please. I can tell you one of those spots that you don't want to be in is to follow Tom Hucker and Jamie Raskin speaking. But Tom Hucker certainly deserves another great round of applause for doing this. This is unbelievable. And as Tom mentioned, Nancy and the whole council, I know that Evan Glass and Tom is going to introduce other people as well, but is here. But all of us stand together that we know that the way that this is being done is not the best way, to say the extreme least. And it is very comforting to know that Tom is the head of the Transportation and Environment Committee for Montgomery County. No one is questioning that we need better transportation solutions. No one is questioning that. We've been saying that for years. I was born in Montgomery County. I can tell you we have had transportation issues, candidly, for my whole life. We need to do things in a smart way, not in a quick way. We need to do it in a smart way. And what was attempted to be done was not a smart way. We need to support, as Tom mentioned, we need to support the fixing of the American Legion Bridge first. We need to make certain that we have reversible lanes on 270 and on the Beltway. We need to make certain that if we're going to widen 270, that it should be above 370 towards Frederick, which really does have a narrow a roadway, and that's something that is a bottleneck for that area. We need to make certain that Woodley Gardens and the heart of Rockville is protected. We need to do that. And I want to publicly thank Pete Altman. I want to publicly thank the mayor of Rockville, Bridget Newton, and the county and the city council of Rockville for standing with us as well. Pete has a group, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, called Don't Widen 495 or 270. We also have Don't Widen 495. Do they deserve a round of applause? The governor was in Gaithersburg at the Labor Day parade and said that they were not going to widen 270 beyond the existing right-of-way. He said it. Pete Ron came to the Montgomery County Council and said, oh yes, that's what we're going to do. The second time Pete Ron came to us, he said, that's what we're going to try to do. That is not the same. That is reneging on a promise, and we should not allow that. And oh, by the way, we need multimodal solutions. Multimodal. And that means adding transit. We can do it. We should do it the correct way, and we can do this as in the way that we would all be proud that it is being done. Reversible lanes would be the least expensive, in my opinion, that they could do. They could do it with a can of spray paint. So why in the world are they doing things otherwise? Thank you all for being here. And there again, Tom and everybody else for setting this up. We stand together to make certain we get a better Montgomery County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sidney. I mentioned the General Assembly. The fantastic chair of our House Transportation and Environment Committee is with us, and the Senate didn't pass any legislation despite his heroic efforts. Let me call him up to tell you what the General Assembly has been doing. Kumar Barve.
Well, let me begin by complimenting my colleagues in the legislature. If you're a member of the Maryland House of Delegates, please stand up so you can be recognized right now. I heard Lauren's name mentioned, Janelle. Well, how appropriate. Yeah, I was quoted as having used an obscenity a few days ago about the possibility of having this vote on Wednesday, and I got a text from a former Rockville mayor who said, Kumar, I love it when you talk dirty. So, in any case, I especially want to acknowledge Jared, because when we were in the Maryland General Assembly this last session, we sat down, the chair of the delegation, Mark Corman, who unfortunately can't be here, and the late speaker, Mike Bush, and I sat down, and we looked at a long list of pieces of legislation that we thought had the best chance of passing in the Senate, and it was Jared's bill that would comprehensively look at what the impacts of this road widening proposal would be for 270 and 495. We passed the bill before the deadline, so unfortunately it didn't make it out of the Senate. But, you know, speaking more broadly, I think it's important for us to all acknowledge the fact that nobody in the county delegation is reflexively opposed to roads or transit or anything. And I have a reputation, some would say not a positive reputation, of supporting a lot of roads and a lot of transit and a lot of places where people may not have initially wanted it. The bottom line for us, though, is we want the same amount of collaboration on this P3 agreement that we had in the Purple Line P3 agreement. We want to have county council officials, elected officials, and state delegates and senators involved in a more upfront and collaborative way in forming this solution for Montgomery, Prince George's County, and Frederick County. Because at the end of the day, our objective is to move people, to move data, and to move ideas as quickly as we can throughout this region. And so with that, let me again thank you for being a presence here in our county, in our counties, plural, because working together, I believe we will be able to solve this problem for literally everybody in the future and do it in a way that really takes into account 21st century technologies and concepts. So thank you so much again for everything that you've done.
Thanks so much, Kumar. We have fantastic friends that have our back in Prince George's County as well. The County Council is very concerned about this project and the rollout and the process. Let me call up the immediate past president of the Prince George's County Council, Danielle Glaros.
Wow. Good morning, everyone. I have to say, I didn't know all of you were standing in the back, so this is quite an amazing picture. So, wow, I can't believe this many folks turned out on a Sunday morning, but I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Tom Hucker mentioned that I'm the previous past chair for the Prince George's County Council, and it's quite an honor, but you all probably don't know the area I represent. And I'm going to spend a minute, just a few quick seconds actually, to tell you, because it matters with how we think about transportation in Prince George's County, and how I, as a county council member representing District 3, think about transportation. So for those of you who know where the University of Maryland are, you're in my district. I represent 9 of the 11 Purple Line stops that are under construction. I represent the New Carrollton Metro and College Park Metro. I have neighborhoods that align the Penn Mark Line and the Camden Mark Line. And yes, 295 and 495 come through my district. I am absolutely, as well as maglev proposal, I am absolutely ground zero for transportation discussions in the state of Maryland and in this region. And that's the communities I represent, a pretty diverse communities. And yes, we want to change our congestion challenges. And yes, we want to figure out a way to make sure we move our people, move people to jobs, move people to economic opportunity. But doing so is not about widening the 495. There are so many more options that we can do to make that happen. And it is not about choosing fancy projects like maglev either, for that matter. So what I want to say to all of you today is thank you for joining us here in this morning. Please send the strongest message possible to the Board of Public Works. Tom Hucker and others said it before. Our General Assembly matters. We tried our best. I was joining with your colleagues in the General Assembly just a few weeks ago when we did a press conference back then to make the last push we could on 1091. It didn't make it through, but we have another opportunity. And I can't think of how critical this is. I was talking to some folks this morning. At the end of the day, we as electeds are not getting the full story. You as the public are not getting the full story. As someone who grew up in the state of Maryland in Baltimore County and reside in Prince George's County, I can tell you this is not the Maryland way. This is not how we listen to our public. I didn't grow up in a state that predetermines the future of major projects like this. So speak up, stand up, let's keep the pressure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Folks, give a warm welcome to our great county executive, Mark Elrich.
So this proposal's seriously wrong. and I guess you guys don't have to be convinced, right? I spent a lot of time in Annapolis over this last session, and I spent some part of that time lobbying against this project because it's flat out a mistake and it's not going to work. And I would tell you, if anybody wants to get an idea what the full impact of the project is going to be, look up the LBJ Memorial Highway in Houston, Texas, and look at the interchanges. Just look at what happens there. There is no way, even if you could put this on top of the Beltway without disrupting everything in the universe, you're going to get people off. Because the ramps and the things that were required to accommodate the LBJ Memorial Highway would knock out every neighborhood at every intersection of the Beltway. Georgia Avenue, Connecticut Avenue, God knows if they do it, Wisconsin Avenue. There's just no room for this. And you have to do it. If you go up over the road, the car's got to get back down to an exit, otherwise it's going to spin around there forever. And there doesn't appear to be, there's no logical way to get back down and get to an exit within the existing right-of-way. Which, I guess, there's a lot of things that are disappointing. One of the most disappointing things, though, has been the approach of the governor on this, because after months of, we're going to try to keep this in the right-of-way, we're going to try to keep this in the right-of-way, don't worry, we're committed to it. It took a week after this session, I guess, for them to announce 1,400 homes, that'll be impacted and 34 things taken. And that's just the start, because they haven't looked at anything along the roads that intersect the Beltway where these are going to have to come off. So to me, this is just the tip of the iceberg, not the entire iceberg. This project's going to be expensive. And I'll say one of my other major concerns is, I've been working with State Highway on 270. There is a way to get 2 reversibles on 270, which would solve the peak hour direction without doing much of anything except removing the barriers and doing some metering, having exits or having controls like you see on 95 in Virginia. That's dirt cheap. They've already gained a lane in the southern part of I-270 with paint. They're doing a project right now, which they do not talk about, but in the fall, they're going to open up what they've done. They're going to take the inside service lane, which is what I asked them to do last fall. I told the governor, if you want a quick, easy victory, take the inside service lane, turn it into the HOV lane. You'll get a through lane on I-270 tomorrow without anything more than paint. They're going to open up a project that includes all that, and they told me it's going to decrease the travel time from Frederick to the American Legion Bridge by 35 minutes. That's significant. And if they do work on the American Legion Bridge, which the governor also said he was going to start on, after I pointed out that if he was really being sensible, he'd start at the bridge instead of every place else. It took a month for his traffic people to say, yeah, we actually should start at the bridge. I mean, why you would start at the back of a bottleneck has always escaped me. I would start at the biggest part of the bottleneck, and I'd work my way backward as I saw how things changed after I removed the big plug. So they're going to do the big plug. So those things are going to make I-270 better without a whole lot of stuff, and this is what worries me. My concern is they're going to blow the I-270 project into a P3 project, bigger than it needs to be, because that will be cheaper to fix than anything else. But they could use the revenues off I-270 to subsidize what the god-awful cost on the Beltway is going to be. And I can't believe this hasn't dawned on somebody, because it dawned on me. If I had a project that I could do cheaply, but I count this as one big project, and the tolls have to underwrite the one big project, they don't have to underwrite each mile that's built. If those tolls go to the project, they can suck the money off I-270 and go to underwrite the cost of 495, which is just going to be extraordinary. This fight is not over. I intend to keep lobbying 2 of the 3 members of the Board of Public Works. I think the 3rd member has kind of made up his mind. I'm hoping the other members are still open. That's one place we can put a stop to it, at least for now. And we just need to keep pushing on this project and talking to your legislators. I'm really happy to see Kumar here, who took leadership in the Assembly. And even though his district was one of the ones that was most pushed over doing the work on I-270, he had enough sense to see what was going on and realize, yeah, he wants relief on I-270. Nobody doesn't want to not deal with that traffic problem, but it could be dealt with in a much more sensible way. And he had the courage to come out and say, this is the wrong way to do it. So I want to thank you for doing that. I want to thank Tom for hosting this. It shows how much people really care about this, and I'm really happy, because I've gone to one of these other forums, and it was kind of small. I mean, everybody was angry and upset, but it was a small group of angry, upset people. a larger group of angry, upset people is an improvement, and and I'm a big believer that, you stop things and you build movements from the bottom up, and you all certainly represent the people who are going to be affected by this at the community level. Anybody running Democrat or Republican is going to have to look at meetings like this in the community, or Greens, and anybody running for office is going to have to look at this and look at what's happening in Montgomery County, and the way to the governorship ultimately is through Montgomery County, not on this stupid road project. So I'm here with you. I will be working with the legislators. I'll continue to try to lobby the people who are making the next stage of decisions. Work with the county government. We're going to work with Park and Planning. The original project for the Beltway says nothing more than 6 lanes, and you can't go into the creek. We've written a letter. We're asking Park and Planning, do not hand over any parkland to the governor. That would be one way to put a major plug in this project. So look, thank you all for coming out. I'll stick around. This is really a great day. Good day for Montgomery County and Prince George's County. Thank you.
Mark Elrich, everyone. Mark's certainly the first county executive in the history of Montgomery County to say a large group of angry, upset people is better. Let me recognize a couple other elected officials. As you know, we have a great firewall in the watching our back from our federal delegation. Jamie was here. Anthony Brown will be here later. But Kathia Mejia Chavez is here from the office of Senator Chris Van Hollen. And I think Senator Jeff Waldstreicher was mentioned earlier. Is Jeff still here? Great. Thanks, Jeff. Jared Solomon's right here in the front row. Delegate from District 18. Delegate Janelle Wilkins is here. Delegate Laura Charkoudian is here. My great colleagues on the Montgomery County Council, Evan Glass and Hans Reamer, are here. And Cindy DeBala is here from the Tacoma Park City Council. And there's probably others I haven't seen, so please let your presence be known to Dave here. Okay, the aforementioned Parks Commission was mentioned by Mark. You know how important they are now. Let me call up the person who's been to more meetings on this and spent more time than even Brad German and Josh Tolkien. Let me call up the Senior Project Manager from the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Carol Rubin.
Wow, I haven't been an elected official since SGA president in high school. So it's a little embarrassing for me, but I want to start off by correcting something that Tom said. I'm not a decision maker. I was asked by the both combination of the Parks Department through the director and the Planning Department through the director to herd cats on this project. We have about 20, maybe 25 people in the 2 departments working on this project. And I might say without budget for it. So I'm herding those cats, and I didn't think I was gonna also be herding lions and tigers and bears, but that's kind of what's happening. So what is it that my role is really, and what the commission, the Park and Planning Commission's role? And I'm doing this from Montgomery County side. Deborah Borden is the principal counsel over in the Planning Department for Prince George's County, and she and I are coordinating to make sure that everything that happens, that this is a coordinated effort between Montgomery and Prince George's County. Because as much as this is affecting Montgomery County, which is also my community, it's affecting Prince George's County as well, as you heard from Councilmember Glaros. So the commission, and I say the commission because it's made up of two planning boards, the Montgomery County Planning Board and the Prince George's County Planning Board. And those people, the commissioners, are appointed. They're appointed by your local governments, in Montgomery County by the County Council, in Prince George's by the County Executive. And they are not elected, as I say, they're appointed. So they're taking their direction from the people who put them there. So when Tom said that that the council doesn't make a decision here, they absolutely can and will, because I know, having spoken to the commissioners, they're interested to know what the people who put them there entrust for the residents of the community, what they want. So if the council and the councils and the executives of both communities say don't transfer the land, the parkland, then they will take that to heart and they will look at that. Because one of the issues that we've been dealing with, and I think it goes to the heart of what the real problem with this project is now, and I'm not saying that I don't want to, officially I can't say whether we're for or against the project. We just want it to be transparent. We want it to be informed, well-informed. We want the people who are being the most impacted to understand what is happening before decisions are made. So the real issue here is that my take on it, having been dealing with this for a long time, and it's consuming my life, is that the State Highway Administration doesn't seem to respect the local land use decisions that have been made over many, many years by the people who live here. So I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial, but I don't think, when the map was determined, when it's a planning map, this is the State Highway Administration Interactive Impact Map. When that was developed, and it was developed by their internal engineers from a planning perspective, it started off, as many people have said, they started off saying, well, we're going to stay in the right-of-way. And then it was like, well, we're going to try and stay in the right-of-way. And then it's like, well, we're going to take 34 homes, and we're going to impact 1,500 properties. I can't even tell you how much parkland is going to be impacted. It's somewhere right now, given the map that they're showing and the discussions we've had, it's somewhere around 300 acres of parkland. Yeah, to give you an idea, when the ICC was built, it was 84 acres. So we're really concerned about that. And we don't believe that they have done enough of analysis to determine that that's really necessary. And so that's really what we've been trying to tell, as a representative of the Park and Planning Commission, I've been trying to tell the State Highway Administration, is please respect our planning expertise, our local planning expertise. But it seems like the only thing they're interested in is what we have to say about how we're going to mitigate the parkland that's going to be transferred. And that's a done deal. So, at least from their perspective, but I don't think it is, because as I say, this is all about political will that is coming from the ground up, and it's clear today. So all I'm going to say is that map is, they're trying to say, well, we're going to reduce the impacts to the community and the park, so we're going to narrow everything. Well, no, if you want to reduce the impacts, if that's your only purpose, then don't even build it. The real way to design a project of this magnitude is to look at the relationship with existing and future origin and destination patterns, planned land use, economic development considerations, social equity, and safe and efficient access to transit facilities. So with that, my interest is to hear from what the concerns of the community are so that I can relay them to the State Highway Administration when we have our meetings and just hope that they'll listen. I just also would ask that if you're interested in more detailed analysis that we've been doing, the Planning Board, Montgomery County Planning Board has set up a website that is, if you go to montgomeryplanningboard.org, there's a place that shows the managed lanes. It's a picture at the top. You click on Learn More, and it gets you to our website. And that website, on the right side, there's links that show every single, most of the documents that we have, or our responses to any of the stages along the way. It shows the interactive map. It's easier to get to. The State Highways website is not exactly user-friendly, so we're trying to incorporate it into ours. It provides links to, for example, on May 1st, I provided an hour-and-a-half briefing to the commission, full commission, and that's available on YouTube. It will also be linked onto our website. And that gives the really concerns that as technical staff reviewing this project from a local perspective, a land use planning perspective, and a transportation planning perspective, what our concerns are. So with that, one other thing. Whenever the State Highway Administration says, well, the P3 is designing this project, or the P3 is going to do the analysis, they're giving messages to the P3. So by taking transit as a critical element in any of the alternatives, it doesn't have to be a standalone, but as a critical element, taking it off the table, they have sent a message to the P3 that transit doesn't matter. And so that's what we're trying to avoid. So with that, I think this is about listening to you all, and I think you've heard what my kind of concerns are. So thank you very much for having me.
Hello, I'm Ben Ross, Chair of the Maryland Transit Opportunities Coalition, and I want to talk today about a broken promise. No, not the broken promise that no houses would be torn down. We've got a new broken promise. Last Tuesday, hidden in the fine print of something that was posted on the state website, we learned that they have broken their promise that the taxpayers won't pay for it. In the fine print on page 35, it says that if the operator of the toll lanes doesn't perform and the state cancels their contract, the state will have to pay off the loans that that operator took off. So we now have two broken promises, at least. And you know what? I don't believe any of the other promises either now. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Brad German. I'm with Citizens Against Beltway Expansion. The co-chair. Thank you. I want to start by thanking Councilman Tom Hucker for making today happen. It is so important that it's happening. I want to thank Congressman Raskin for having shown up, County Executive Elrich, Jared Solomon, our entire delegation. They were really fantastic. Councilman Glass, thank you for really building this issue. This is not an easy issue. We know that congestion sucks. I spent 23 years traveling to Northern Virginia every day. I get it. I get it. But we also get it that MDOT is stage managing a scary rush to a potentially catastrophic $15 billion plan that's going to permanently change our quality of life. And we don't like congestion, but we don't like what MDOT is doing either. Mics are not picking me up. Now it's picking me up. Okay. So what I get is that MDOT is stage managing a scary rush to a potentially catastrophic $15 billion plan that's going to permanently change the way we live, and we don't like that. They are claiming, MDOT is claiming, that they have broad support for this project, for expanding the Beltway for Lexus lanes. And to back them up, they point to a few letters from transportation groups, business groups. I get that, that's fair enough. But what they're not mentioning, MDOT is not mentioning, are the letters of opposition from the Montgomery County Council, the county executive. They're not mentioning Prince George's County's letter of opposition. They're ignoring the letters of opposition from College Park, from Rockville, from Tacoma Park, other cities. My God, even the DC City Council is planning a resolution of opposition. MDOT forgot to mention that the General Assembly did take a vote of no confidence at the end of the session in the budget bill, calling on them to withdraw the project until an environmental impact statement could be finished. They forgot to mention that the toll project that they are pushing forward is opposed by more than 70 civic associations. They forgot to mention that the Washington Post University of Maryland poll from last October showed 54% of Maryland suburbanites oppose this project. Our communities, our elected officials, and our voice should count at least as much as the AAA of the Mid-Atlantic. And I like the AAA of the Mid-Atlantic. But I have to wrap up. So what do we do next? We have to organize. We have to, in addition to my group, our group, there are plenty of other groups working on the issue. Check out our website at cape495.com. You have to vocalize, organize, then vocalize, spread the word to your friends, let them know what's going on, then mobilize, get them to tell their elected officials, up to Comptroller Francho, about what is going on and about how you feel about it. Tell them that we need to wait until the environmental impact statement is done, and there is a new proposal for strong, sensible congestion relief that has genuine community and political support. Thank you.
Good morning, Montgomery County. My name is Dio Akinche. I'm a longtime resident of the Forest Glen area of Silver Spring, and I'm speaking on behalf, yes, I'm speaking on behalf of our Revolution Maryland and our over 7,000 activists statewide. We oppose the expansion of I-495 and I-270. This 20th century solution is being proposed to address a 21st century problem. It ignores the attitudinal shifts among a population that wants mass transit, mixed-use development, walkable, as well as environmentally friendly modes of transportation. Currently, only one of the 7 alternatives the state is considering is a no-build. The other 6 proposals would all disrupt our neighborhoods or worse. Alternative 10, the governor's preferred choice, would force 34 families out of their homes and leave 1,400 other families with reduced living space. 4 businesses would have to shutter or move. Our beloved Y would be adversely affected, and the Blair High School field would lose a substantial portion of that property. As bad as these current estimates are, we have reason to fear that the reality could be far worse. Governor Hogan promised on Labor Day 2018 that no residences would be affected by this expansion. Governor Hogan's claim that no taxpayer money will be used is another dubious claim. According to page 6 of the pre-solicitation report for project bidders, we, the taxpayers of Maryland, would be on the hook for financing this $11 billion project in the end of a developer default. If the project is terminated for uninsurability or for a number of other reasons. Such defaults are a real possibility, just ask Indiana. And in many cases, the defaulters of these public-private partnerships put up very little of their own cash. And because of the complicated mix of fees and tax breaks, they benefit financially, even if these deals fail. Why is the governor in such a rush to push this project forward against such a groundswell of community opposition? Will the Hogan companies profit? Yeah. It seems possible possible, since their business includes assembling permits for companies seeking to do business with the state of Maryland. How is that fair or ethical when, as governor, he hires and fires those who grant permits? Last year alone, Governor Hogan made $2.4 million from his private real estate and development business. In summation, I ask you to be especially vigilant and demand accountability. We cannot allow the erosion of our democracy to take root here in Maryland. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Councilman Hucker for providing us the opportunity to speak, and the county executive and county council for fighting on our behalf against this ill-conceived plan. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Tolkien. I'm the director of the Maryland chapter of the Sierra Club. Thank you. That's all. I'm supposed to be brief, so I won't extend any thank yous, but just say that we are truly blessed with amazing representation here in this area. But I'm not speaking for Sierra Club today. I'm really speaking with my daughter in mind. She's part of the toddler contingent back in the corner over there. And we need to be thinking about the next generation. This is also personal, not just because my daughter goes to the YMCA and my wife teaches spin there. It's personal because it's their future that we're talking about. Climate change must be central to every decision that we're making. Okay. And in Maryland, transportation is the largest source of pollution. So we cannot rely on the models of the past with more pavement and more cars. We need to be looking to those innovative and bold solutions. It's 2019. It is time for inspirational visions that bring our communities together, not just transfer between. Walking and biking is good for our health. Transit helps center us and connect us. There are options out there which are inspiring, which will protect the climate for the next generation. This project has been ill-conceived from the start, but it doesn't mean we have to concede that we're going to be stuck in traffic. It means there are better ways. There are ways that we need to be fighting for. And I'll just finish by saying this. When we think about the amazing representation that we have here, it's because so many of you reached out. So what we need to do after this event is we need to realize that this is not local. This is not Montgomery, this is not Prince George's, this is the climate. This is a reason to call everybody in Maryland that you know. This is a reason to write your most personal, most compelling email or phone call or Facebook post to get everybody involved at the level that we'll need them, because this is an uphill battle. It has just started and we will need everybody to win. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Speaking of social media, my very smart neighbor, Jim, reminds me to remind all of you to add hashtag Beltway270 Town Hall to all your photos on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you. Pete Altman, everyone.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pete Altman. I'm the founder of widen270.org, which many of you are part of and involved with, many terrific volunteers. I want to thank everybody who's here today for making this issue a hot issue, to our elected representatives who have been standing by us, both in potentially affected neighborhoods, as well as all of us, because of our will-be affected climate. Tom, thank you for today. I'm beginning to get the sense that maybe we can't trust everything that Governor Hogan and Secretary Pete Ron have to say about this project. On Labor Day last year, Governor Hogan told me, and I recorded it and posted it to YouTube, that not a single home is going to be taken down because of this project. And that promise lasted exactly as long as the election did. Secretary Pete Ron told a group of us in Rockville at the road show and legislators no homes would be taken, and of course their story has changed. Ben pointed out, taxpayers actually will be footing the bill. Heck, the meeting that has been postponed, the Board of Public Works decision that was scheduled for a few days from now, was for a $90 million contract to get to work on it. That would have come out of our pockets. The thing that makes me, and should make all of us most angry, is widening doesn't work. It is not a long-term congestion solution. And although there's lots and lots of studies and analyses out there showing it, we have the experience from 270, which I live right next to it, being widened in 1990. They doubled its width to the 12 lanes it is now. The promise was it would relieve congestion until beyond 2010. And within 5 years, the highway was clogging up again. And within 9 years of those new lanes, the Washington Post reported, traffic was already worse than when they started and worse than it was expected to be in 2010. So we have clear proof this doesn't work. So we all need to be saying, no way to wider highways. 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 Sign up with one of our organizations, stay involved, repeat the mantra, ask lots of questions, use social media, spread the word, engage your friends, neighbors, family, everybody that you have, because we will beat this thing if each and every one of us keeps reaching out and engaging people. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike Tidwell, Director of the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. And I too want to thank all our leaders, especially Tom Hucker, and everyone who's come today. And I want to just repeat the common sense phrase that the first rule of holes is that when you find yourself in one, stop digging. It's the first rule. In October, the world's climate scientists told us we have barely 10 years to stabilize our one and only life-giving climate system. And nowhere in that scientific study did they say, and build more roads so more cars can drive in your communities. We don't need more cars and more traffic. We need fewer cars. We need more transit. We need to electrify everything so that transit is electric, so our buses are electric, so our cars are electric on fewer roads. Am I right? But the governor needs our help. I mean, Governor Hogan's first instincts on the environment are almost never spot on. In 2016 in the General Assembly, we passed a 25% clean electricity bill for our state, and the governor vetoed the bill. Then the General Assembly overrode him. Then when the governor ran for governor the second time, he said he was proud of that policy because we helped him understand. In 2017, we had a campaign to ban fracking in our great state, and it was town halls like this all over the state that helped the governor start to get educated on the issue of fracking. And by the end, he too came to the conclusion that fracking was bad for our water and our climate, and he signed that bill. And just last month, the General Assembly passed a 100% clean electricity bill that the governor has not yet signed. So if you haven't called Governor Hogan to tell him to sign the Clean Energy Jobs Act, please do. We need to slow this bus down, as Tom Hucker said earlier. We need an environmental impact statement that's real, that gives us real process, and a real statement will show the alternatives are better to widening our roads. Am I right? Let's get out of this hole. Let's stop digging. Let's go for better alternatives. Let's electrify our transportation sector. Or again, back to the bus image, let's stop the giant runaway gas-powered bus and replace it with a steady, sustainable, solar-powered bus and solar-powered trains and solar-powered cars on fewer roads. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ann Horton.
I serve as treasurer for Citizens Against Beltway Expansion, or CABE, and president of the Indian Spring Citizens Association. Thank you, Councilmember Tom Hucker, for your leadership on this important issue, and thank you to my neighbor and friend, Councilmember Evan Glass, for your outstanding representation of our community on the Montgomery County Council. Also, very special thanks must go to Brad German of Citizens Against Beltway Expansion for his tireless leadership. To all the elected officials and sponsoring organizations, we thank you for your dedication to this important issue. And I just want to add a true gem of Montgomery County, Carol Rubin. We are forever grateful to you for shedding light on this issue for us. I stand before you as a lifelong resident of Indian Spring, a community that is just south of the Beltway, between Colesville Road and University Boulevard, so we are bookended by the Beltway. As such, our community is greatly affected by this proposed plan, yet we feel completely unheard and unrepresented at the top levels of our state government. So I'd like to ask my fellow Indian Spring community members to stand up briefly. If you're already standing, raise your hand so that we can finally be seen and represented. These individuals have been working tirelessly to bring some sense and sanity to this disastrous P3 expansion proposal. They have volunteered countless hours of their time and even their own money to make sure that our community is informed, engaged, and active. They distributed 1,000 flyers about this event in 48 hours. So we thank them so much. They are the very best of community activism, and I am proud to be part of their team. Thank you all for your remarkable efforts. The Silver Spring YMCA, the Indian Spring Rec Center, the small amount of green space we have in our community, all of these things are at risk, as is our quality of life, the value of our homes, and most importantly, the natural environment of our community.
I think I'm the shortest speaker so far. I'm Tracy Johnston. I'm with the Action Committee for Transit, and this event is making these events look like dog and pony shows. This looks like the running of the bulls at Pamplona compared to these dog and pony shows, but there's good for this. I'm a criminologist by training, and when that's relevant to Maryland policy, that's never a good thing. When we at ACT saw that the transit alternative was just taken off the table as if by magic, that put a lot of alarm bells off for us. And it should for everyone here. Because as my predecessors have all said so eloquently, you know, more pavement means more cars. And I'm going to say anything that makes it easier to drive means more cars. So that includes the reversible lanes too. Sorry guys. That includes the reversible lanes too. You make it easier to drive, more folks will drive. So we're here to tell you, if you want to solve the congestion problem right now, really quickly and conveniently, you need to have all day two-way MARC service up in Frederick. And you know what? I stole this from someone of mine. And you know what? If you have it all-way two-way, people can read, they can do the internet, and if that's not enough to get folks from Frederick and up county and out of their cars and onto the trains, you can maybe even do like a cafe car or a bar car like the Metro North does. Yeah, they got rid of that liquor store right by the MARC station and Union Station, but whatever it takes to get people out of their cars. Think of our children and think of the policy process here. Your neighbors that support this told them, well, you know what? The reason this process has been opaque and capricious is because they know it's a bad policy. That's where the criminology comes into effect here, folks. Have a good one.
Hi, my name is Kit Gage. I'm representing Friends of Sligo Creek. And let me just say, welcome to the Sligo Creek watershed. Sligo Creek, you may know, is a skinny-ass little creek in a very slender little park with a pretty good-sized watershed. We are horrified by this plan in many reasons. Let me just say one of them. You may look at my blouse. I've worn a blouse that is a picture of Hogan's Beltway expansion. Seriously. The 2 points today. One of them is there's talk about how when we take away those parks, which certainly includes that lovely little community golf course in Sligo Creek, don't worry, we'll replace those parks. Where are they going to put them? In Pennsylvania? There's no parking. Oh, I think the plan is actually, Hogan's plan is to move Tacoma Park out and make that a park. See, that way we get our park and get rid of all those pesky Tacoma Park people. See? The second point is stormwater. I do a lot of work on stormwater. You may have noticed that the Beltway, which was built in 62, late 60s, they didn't actually capture and infiltrate stormwater. Today, that's not a good idea. There is no plan in this massive expansion to incorporate the existing Beltway in stormwater plans. There is no other time you could ever do it, and it's already, the counties have already spent millions and millions of dollars mitigating the effect of the existing Beltway. You put in new lanes, it's going to be horrifying. The answer to this is supposed to be, you either call it flying buttresses or a double-decker Beltway. If any of you have ever seen what happens to stormwater when it goes down a steep incline, you will know that there is no way you can easily handle stormwater on those fancy double-deckers. It's going to be incredibly expensive. That has not been estimated. It would be a terrible idea. So the answer is what everyone else has said. Transit, fix the problems, don't expand the Beltway. Thank you.
Good morning from down here. I'm Jeannie Braha, the Executive Director of Rock Creek Conservancy. We're a nonprofit organization whose mission is to restore Rock Creek. We're a watershed organization that, much like Sligo Creek, we protect all of the Rock Creek watershed, and we're a partner to Rock Creek Park of the National Park Service, which, while it's in DC, will be significantly impacted by any of the environmental impacts that we've been talking about today. One of the things that makes Montgomery County really fantastic are all the recreational opportunities that it affords. And we are so proud of the fact that almost the entirety of the main stem of Rock Creek is protected from its origins in Laytonsville all the way down past Montgomery County and past Maryland through DC to Georgetown, where it hits the Potomac. In addition to the significant environmental concerns that this project presents, Rock Creek Conservancy wants to make sure that those recreational opportunities and the habitat connectivity that Rock Creek and its parklands provide for wildlife of all sorts are protected, regardless of what happens with this project. We are so thankful to Carol and her colleagues in the Planning Commission for their significant and tireless efforts, apparently unfunded, to determine the impacts of this project. We're incredibly concerned that while an environmental impact statement seems to be moving forward, the spirit of the National Environmental Policy Act is really being ignored by virtue of the fact that we have no access to that environmental information and the studies that the State Highway Administration has done. So I encourage you, as you're thinking about the comments that you'd like to submit regarding the establishment of the P3, that you call for the release of all of that information so that we can really make informed decisions. And in addition to making those comments, I would encourage you, whether your park is Sligo Creek or Rock Creek, get out there. It's gorgeous out today, even in a little bit of rain, and enjoy that while we've got it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming.
I'm Eliza Cava. I'm the Director of Conservation at Audubon Naturalist Society. We're the oldest independent environmental organization in the DC region, and it was before my time at ANS, but I know that we fought with many of you against the ICC. I think what we learned from the ICC is that highways are meant for sprawl, that you can't really get back what you've lost, and that incentivizing driving just incentivizes driving. I'm also the co-chair of the Stormwater Partners Network, which is a coalition of more than 35 civic and environmental organizations in Montgomery County and regionally. I think most of my immediate 3 or 4 predecessors are members of the network. Stormwater is growing. That's why we're talking about it. It's growing under climate change. The Washington Post predicted that our region is in for a future of hellish heat and high water. That means more floods. That means even more damage to our streams, which, as Jeannie and Kit just said, are really the jewels of our region and what knit our communities together. They're impacted by stormwater. We are impacted by stormwater. I, like Josh, am the parent of a toddler. This feels very urgent. Transportation is now the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. When we induce more driving, we induce more driving. We get more greenhouse emissions, and we need to change in such a generational way our patterns of transit and planning and nature protection. It's for us and for our communities today, but more importantly, it's for my daughter and Josh's daughter and for the children of people around the world who we have not met and will never meet. And be sure you write to Peter Franchot and Nancy Cobb and Governor Hogan and tell them that. And sign the petitions outside, send in your action alerts, and make phone calls, please. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Petra Jacobs and I live in the Carter Rock Springs community. I am here today as a county resident, parent and a board member of the Carter Rock Springs Citizens Association representing Carter Rock community, who has spent countless and countless hours working to protect our neighborhood against air and noise pollution caused by Beltway. Our community is located directly adjacent to the Beltway between the River Road and Clara Burton Parkway exits. In addition to 569 households, there is also an elementary school with its play areas and ball fields located virtually on the Beltway. Like many others, we are greatly concerned about the air pollution from highways on children's lung development, and this has been scientifically proved, and the impact of highway noise and on the general health, cardiovascular systems, and quality of life of the residents of our community. We are experiencing these impacts today, and things will only get worse if the Beltway is expanded. Not only will there be more cars and trucks, but traffic will be even closer to sensitive receptors as our children in Carter Rock Springs Elementary School and our homes. Our community has been bringing our concerns to SEC representative, especially about harmful impact that air emission from highways have on hundreds of children that live in our community and go to Carter Rock Springs Elementary School. In fact, some states have banned building schools within 500 feet of highways, and our school is much closer than that. We have submitted our comments to project scoping as well as alternative selection. We are concerned that our concerns were not heard, as current selection of SHA alternatives included the options that we recognized as significantly harming our community. And the trash process reminds us our extreme disappointment with SHA communication during the last Beltway expansion. SHA promised us a noise barrier in a community meeting held on April 30, 2001. Because of a preliminary analysis confirmed that the cost of barrier would be below the maximum allowable cost. But in a blatant about-face, SHA came back to the community with the excuse that all of the sound barrier funding was already committed until 2006. In 2005, SHA's barriers cost estimate doubled, making Carter ineligible again. So we have nothing now to protect us. This unfortunate history underscores the need for very careful planning and approval process that would have a chance to consider the best solution possible while minimizing harmful effect on local communities. Thank you.
Hello, I am representing Save Sligo, which is the Sligo Creek Golf Course. Our friends from Friends of Sligo Creek already talked about the Sligo Creek watershed and the parkland. This is 65 acres of undeveloped land inside the Beltway. It immediately abuts the Beltway, and based on the current plans, it will be demolished from the expansion. This land also doubles as a wildlife refuge. It serves for recreational opportunities for First Tee, that's youths that can't play other sports, and our senior community that can get out and exercise in fresh air in a less impactful sport. You do not have to be a golfer to enjoy this course. There is a restaurant with a patio that you can look out over the beautiful Sligo Creek Park, get a lemonade, get a cold beer, get some food. So if you're not familiar with the course, you do the Sligo Creek Trail between Colesville Road and Forest Glen, pop off, cross over from the trail, and go check out this beautiful thing. We cannot lose it. As someone said, once it's gone, we'll never get it back. This is 65 acres of open land in Montgomery County that we need to protect.
Hi, good morning, neighbors. My name is Randall Luttenberg. I'm Vice President of the Montgomery County Green Democrats, which is just a chartered club for voters who like breathing clean air and drinking clear water. So if you like those things, you might be one of us. I'm happy to say that most of the things that I was going to say have already been very, very well expressed by the people who preceded me. So I'm going to ask a question. This is called a public-private partnership. And for a partnership to be successful, the private and the public partners must benefit. And the scope of this proposal is staggering. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars. We're talking about a 50-year agreement. So my question is, what is the public interest in this? We know where the private interest lies. Now, this project, we know for certain, will not accomplish its primary objective. It will not alleviate congestion. Now, we've heard back and forth about whether or not induced demand is a real thing, and it is. We've seen this before. We know how research for pay goes. We've seen it with the asbestos industry, the tobacco industry, and now the oil industry. If you want to find congestion deniers like the Koch brothers have through the Cato Institute, using the research that the lobbyists like the Suburban Maryland Transportation Association like to quote, we know that you can find the results that you want. But if you look at the data from the University of Toronto, from UC Davis, San Diego, from the academic peer research review, we know that this will not accomplish what it's supposed to do. So where is the public interest? We know that this will produce harms. We know that as you look through the state documentation, you would be hard-pressed to find words like climate change and air quality and noise pollution. And it is unconscionable in 2019 for us to make plans and tie our neighborhoods for decades to commit them to a project that does not address these things. Where is the public interest? And finally, and most importantly, this state and our counties are only just beginning to figure out how we're going to deal with the challenges of climate change and population growth and how we're going to respond to these things. This is absolutely the wrong moment to lock us into a 5-decade plan that will make the problem worse and that will foreclose on planning and spending on the solutions that we need. This project needs to prove itself. The public partner needs to benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. We have a few General Assembly members that have been really heroes on this project. Let me just call them up to quickly introduce themselves and welcome. And if you have questions about the process, if you have statements that haven't been made for Carol and the rest of us, please come on and line up because we're open for business. Jared. Jeff. Lori.
Thank you, Tom. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jared Solomon. I have the honor of representing District 18 with my colleague, Senator Jeff Waldstreicher, Lord Charkoudian, one of my colleagues. I just wanted to say a couple of very quick things. First, I just want to thank the members of the County Council and our County Executive. They really had our backs in Annapolis this year. Both Mark, Tom, Evan came down on numerous occasions, testified on behalf of the legislation that we put forward, and it really was a collaborative partnership. And just because we are out of session now does not mean we are out of ideas or that we are out of the fight. I think you have heard, multitude of policy reasons, and I think I'll just leave it with this. What makes our community great is not the roads and highways that run through our county, it's the neighborhoods and open space that we so cherish. So thank you for being here.
I'm Delegate Lord Charkoudian, and I just want to say that we stand with you and we're honored to represent you and that this is what democracy looks like. And I'm going to stop talking so that we can hear from you. And thank you so much for your fighting. We're going to keep fighting with you.
All right, who's got a question? Sir, come on up. Whoops, sorry. While this gentleman's making his way, let me just remind you, I know people are going to have to take off. We're also going to break down into small groups, breakout sessions, if you can stay with, led by Josh Tolkien of the Sierra Club about next steps, for those of you who can stay. And I want to remind everybody, history is on our side. Many years ago, they tried to drive I-95 through the city of Baltimore, and a little-known social worker named Barbara Mikulski led a whole coalition to stop that. Years later, they tried to drive I-95 through the city of Tacoma Park, and a mayor named Sammy Abbott united the city and blocked 95 from going through the city of Tacoma Park and dividing that community. We can win this, and we can greatly improve this plan if we all stand together and make our views known to Comptroller Francho and Treasurer Kopp. Thank you all so much, and sir, this is all yours.
Thank you. My name is Gordon Evans. I'll mention 3 points that have been made inside 3 minutes. When we first came here to Oxon Hill about 6 years ago, I kept encountering young professionals who came to this area, did not own a car, did not intend to buy a car. They spent their money on a condominium. They went to work by either walking, bicycling, or mass transit. Even if you paid them, they will not use these additional lanes on your interstate. They don't care about your additional lanes on your interstate. Looking at this crowd, these are all old people like me. Counting the young professionals here, there are only 4. They're not here because they don't care about this road. They're finding another way to work. Second item, Governor Hogan said that the lanes would not cost the state anything. Something that hasn't been mentioned is that with this PPP contract will be a 50-year monopoly on a revenue stream. It hasn't been quantified, the value of that revenue stream. It is in the millions, however, and if the state of Maryland builds a competing mass transit or highway that cuts into the revenue of that stream, that contractor, that PPP will tell you exactly how much it's costing them. It will be in the millions. And the final item has already been mentioned, that spending $11 billion on lane widening does not guarantee congestion will be relieved. I am a veteran of adding additional lanes to the I-405 around Los Angeles. Caltrans made that decision. Caltrans is California Department of Transportation. It's similar to MDOT here. I don't know why transportation departments habitually add additional lanes when they know additional lanes don't work. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nan Wellens. I'm a resident of Sligo Grandview, and I'm representing myself. I only have two very brief comments. One is, we've heard today from so many great organizations. I think it's time to resurrect, as Tom mentioned, Sammy Abbott. And I just want to I think it's time for us to resurrect an emergency committee on the transportation crisis like we had that prevented the building of the North Central Freeway in the 70s. That's my first point. I think all these organizations, if we can get under an umbrella, we will have a much larger voice and we will be heard better. And the second thing I want to say is addressed basically to Governor Hogan. Yeah, I know. You didn't win Montgomery County, you didn't win PG County, but we are your constituents. We may not have voted for you, but we are your constituents. And you owe us to listen to us and to hear our voice. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Lindsay Mendelson, the transportation representative with the Maryland Sierra Club. It's really, really inspiring to see all of you here today. And I think that one of the things that can really help to stop this project and make sure we can transition to a 21st century transportation system with mass transit and walking and biking communities and is to make sure that we have hundreds and thousands of people making sure that they contact their elected officials to get further involved and to build a movement to accelerate this momentum that we have here today. So we're right after this, we're going to break out into different sections. We're going to have a session over here on this side of the room that's led by Brad German from Citizens Against Beltway Expansion. If you want to find ways to plug into, for instance, help to reach out to your civic association to get involved, other ways to plug into, contact your elected officials, to write letters, and other ways to really get the word out to your neighbors. You can go over here in that section for additional ways to plug in. If you have further questions on what this project means, what's happening at the Board of Public Works, and want to know a little bit more, there is going to be a section over here led by Brian Ditzler and Elliot Levine, who will help to answer those questions for you. In addition, as you came in, you probably saw a lot of tables around the room from different organizations, from Action Committee for Transit, Citizens Against Beltway Expansion, Maryland Transit Opportunities Coalition, CCAN, and many others. And so I definitely encourage you to go to those tables over there if you haven't, to sign in and to get more information. There's also going to be a section out there for a letter writing table with information on how, talking points on how to write a letter, and a specific section where you can just write that letter and send it into the Board of Public Works for their meeting expected in June. So again, a section here for people interested in how to plug in more to the highway expansion project actions, a section here for question and answers if you have more questions on the project, and sections back there on letter writing and continuing to sign into the and get more information from all the groups that are here. So thank you again so much for all your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lindsay. I know you all have been directing your comments at Comptroller Francho and Treasurer Kopp, but there's a third member of the Board of Public Works that we thought maybe wasn't listening, but he's apparently listening. Check Governor Hogan's Twitter feed. Since you've been here, he's telling us, like we didn't know, the Washington metro area is ranked second for the most congested. Marylanders like you sit in traffic every single day. Some pro-traffic activists are holding a roadkill rally, that's this, to try to halt our plans to solve this congestion crisis. All this meeting proves, shame on you people, all this meeting proves is that our administration has proposed the only serious solution to this issue. It gets better. These anti-congestion relief activists show no regard for the hundreds of thousands of you who are stuck in soul-crushing traffic every day. Even more, who's stuck in soul-crushing traffic every day? I am. Even more, they offer no real ideas to solve a public health, environmental, and safety crisis that's hurting quality of life in our region. While these activists plot to keep the roads filled with traffic, our relief plans have received broad support Advancing through public hearings, workshop meetings, and votes will continue, blah, blah. Okay. Does anybody else know a guy in a big publicly funded house that spends his Sunday tweeting at activists? I'm the transportation chair of the council. Governor, I just gotta tell you, if you're looking for real ideas to solve a public health, environmental, or safety crisis, you should begin by reading the letters we send to you every single year proposing these very reforms that we're asking for. Thank you.
That's crazy. Yeah, thank all of our pro-traffic activists for coming out today. Can we get a yay traffic? Yay traffic! That's insane. Valerie Grusing, I'm the president of the Forest Estates Community Association. We are at the intersection of Georgia Avenue and Forest Glen near Holy Cross, and I want to make a process point because that is the issue that is precluding our opportunity for input here, and it's not legal what's been happening. I wanted to make Carol and others who are listening aware, since I just learned about it myself last week through my work, of the Federal Permitting Improvement Steering Council. Have you heard of this? Awesome. I had not either. It is composed of member agencies designed to provide an overarching body, and it has staff members that are independent to oversee these types of issues. For infrastructure permitting, and they intervene when there are problems, but they have to be asked to intervene. So I just wanted to put that out there. I have a couple of contacts I'm happy to put you in touch with. And I have a couple of other board members and honorary board members with me who I will let introduce ourselves, and I know there are some other Forest Estates community members here, so if you can just raise your hand or stand up as well. We're really passionate about this issue, and thank everyone for coming out and organizing.
So as Valerie said, I also am a member of the Forest Estates Community Association. They call me a board member emeritus. I used to be on the board. I chose my house because I could walk to the metro. And I proudly ride the bus whenever I go to downtown Silver Spring. My kids ride the bus. We use a lot of transit. The number one thing I hear from my friends who live in the Up County is how badly they wish that MARC trains were the first alternative. Having MARC trains go, yeah, let's hear it, right? We have the existing infrastructure. The amount of money that would have to be spent to improve that infrastructure and make life better for people on all parts of the MARC system would be very small compared to this project. The second thing I'd like to bring up is actually my neighbor Jess, who's about to speak, pointed this out to us with great concern, and it's a question that I would love to have elected officials and those like Carol maybe answer at some point, probably not today, but one concern of ours has been there's a rumor floating around. One thing, I have to drive to work these days. I have a job that demands I drive for the first time in years, and I hate it. I hate it so much. And one of the things that makes my drive bearable is that I'm able to telecommute a certain number of days a week. And many of my coworkers survive long commutes by the fact that they can telecommute. One of the rumors going around about the Triple P partnerships, it really gravely concerns me in terms of how much power it would take away from us, is that if this project went through, there would be a clause in the contract that nothing could be done by local, state, or federal governments that would encourage or take away the profit-making potential of those private entities. Right. This means that if, say, our transportation committee wanted to encourage telecommuting, wanted to give tax breaks to businesses that encourage telecommuting, wanted to give tax breaks to citizens that telecommute. These are all ideas I have begged and begged and begged for the whole time I've lived in Maryland. If we could get more people telecommuting, we have the technology. I choose to not go to work on Mondays and go to work on Fridays because the secret of the Beltway is most people telecommute on Fridays. And the Beltway is really drivable on Fridays in the direction I go. It really is. And the whole time I'm driving, I'm like, why are we not getting more people to telecommute? If this contract were to be signed and a clause is like that in there, we may never again be able to encourage more telecommuting, and that scares the hell out of me. So I think that's another question to ask COP and ask Peter Francho, the guy with the money, who is our comptroller. I really want an answer to that question. Thank you. We are a small but mighty citizen association. We are pedestrians. We are young urbanists and proud of it. And I'm going to turn it over to Jess, who lives down the street from me.
Hello, my name is Justin Dicker. I'm also a member of the Forest Estates Community Association Board. So I have a question for everybody out there. How many of you, like me, on a nearly routine daily basis, take the Beltway to go back and forth to work? All right, so a fair number of people. I have a 40-plus mile commute back and forth to work every day, whether I like it or not. If there is probably anybody in this room whose life and quality of life is affected by the congestion and, quite frankly, the risk to life and limb that the Beltway provides, it's probably me. And I will tell you, I stand in strong opposition to these plans that I've read, because the state has provided no information that clearly shows that by doing this development, it will decrease accidents on the Beltway, that will decrease the time of my commute. Do you really think I would be standing up here in opposition to this plan if this development were to take place? I had clear indications that I would be spending more time with my wife and children as opposed to NPR on the radio. Yep. I'd be opposed to it? That would be insane. What I would like to say to Governor Hogan and the other elected officials is that if you provide the people of Maryland and Montgomery County, Prince George's County, who since I've moved here, truly I think are some of the most intelligent, well-informed individuals that I've ever met. If you provide us a plan that we truly think will improve our quality of life, we will be for it. We are just not NIMBYs where we don't want it in our backyard. Just as a matter of fact, our board association and other board associations members met with Councilmember Glass just last week to discuss why we think the development in Montgomery Hills is so vital to an improvement in our quality of life. We're just not going to be against development just because. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.